5, 4, 3.
Welcome to U.S. Sailing's Starboard portal. Today is a very exciting day as it marks 1 year out from the 2020 Tokyo Games. In celebration, we have our 11 selected athletes who will represent the U.S. next summer in Tokyo. It takes a community to get these athletes to where they are today. I'd like to thank our many supporters and primary partner, Kilroy Realty, apparel partner, Helly Hansen, our technology partners, Siemens and Nimbix, our industry partners, Harkin, McLube, and Marlowe Ropes, as well as the larger sailing community that supports these athletes. To kick off this session, and in no particular order, I'd like to welcome Riley Gibbs and Anna Weiss, our NACRA 17 athletes. Woo! Stephanieroble and Maggie Shea are 49er FX athletes. Dave Hughes.
Hey everyone.
Dave Hughes and stumcnay are men's 470 athletes. Charlie Buckingham, our laser athlete. Paige Rayleigh, our radial athlete. Luke Muller, our fin athlete. Pedro Pascual, our men's RSX athlete. And Farrah Hall, who's unable to log in this evening because of internet, but is our women's RSX athlete representative and here in spirit. Hosting this afternoon session is Olympian and current U.S. Sailing board member, Briana Provancha. From all of us at U.S. Sailing and U.S. sailors at large, welcome and thank you for joining us today to celebrate 1 year out from Tokyo 2020. And with that, Bri, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Justine, for the intro. And thank you to U.S. Sailing and U.S. Sailing team for putting this on today and letting us celebrate this awesome milestone in an Olympic journey. I know the opening ceremony is really exciting, and that's what these athletes will be doing a year from today. We have a great discussion for everybody today. We'll go through all things Olympics. We'll get to know some of the athletes. We'll talk about the village, some of the preparation and the mental side of preparing for an event like the Games. So hoping you'll stick with us for the hour. Thank you to all of the athletes who are tuning in with us. I know some of you are coming from different parts of the country and also different parts of the world. So hoping we can bring the energy for all of the time zones today. And we're starting to see some of the people trickle in live joining us. So thank you to the followers of the team. It means a lot to us. And please give us a shout for where you're tuning in from. Give us a hello. We'd love to, engage with you guys. And also we will have time at the end for questions from the audience. So during the course of the panel, please feel free to add your comments and your questions, and we will direct those to the athletes at the end. So without further ado, I think we can get started on our questions. So beginning, we will just do some quick specific athlete questions just to get to know, and then we'll move on to some Olympic questions. So not to put you on the spot, Luke, but this one's for you. I think, you recently just got named to Team USA for sailing and for the fin. What is your excitement level and has it sunk in yet for you?
Yeah, I'm extremely excited, extremely grateful. I think, with the worldwide situation and COVID-19, it was, a long road, and I didn't know if it was going to end short or if it was going to continue on. And it was an absolute relief to know that I was nominated to Team USA and the US Olympic team. And I'm overjoyed. And I'm really grateful to be out sailing and working hard and, striving to do well next year in Tokyo.
That's awesome. And just a follow-up question for you. I know it's such a family affair for all of you guys. I know it takes a village to really get to the Olympics. What do you think this means for your family and for your friends?
Yeah, I think as with all athletes, it means the world to our village, to the people that support us, that join in our sacrifices to make it happen, to the birthdays not gone to or weddings not taken part in. And I mean, for my family in particular, everyone is deeply in sailing. My brother runs a 29er team. My sister is the director of the U.S. sailing team, and my little brother is a college sailor and 49er sailor. So it's definitely a family affair, and I'm grateful for all their support over these years. It means a lot to us.
That's fantastic. I'm hoping that they can all make it to Tokyo next summer to support all of you guys. So this next question's for Dave. Dave, you have an amazing background in that you've been to the Olympics as both a coach and an athlete. And in London, you coached the 49er team. And in Rio, you were sailing the 470. Can you talk a little bit about those experiences and what you're hoping to bring with you to Tokyo?
Sure. Well, first of all, nice to see you, Bree. It's been a while.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, you know, coaching in Olympics and sailing in Olympics is you know, two very different things, but quite connected. As a coach, I think it's a little easier to figure out prioritization for the athletes, maybe because you are trying to put everything together for the athletes, and that was something I have always tried to remember and bring to my athletic side. And then, of course, as an athlete, it's, you know, it's quite different than being a coach as well. And you know, at the end of the day, the two really complement each other. So I am often speaking with Stu and our coach Thomas about my experiences, the things I went through as a coach, and my transition from coach to athlete, which I thought was quite interesting. And well, to be fair, I went from athlete to coach to athlete again. So having experienced both sides, it's super rewarding. And if anybody here on this call ends up coaching a future Olympics, I think you will know what I mean.
And Stu, you've done a number of campaigns and a number of events. Oh, there's my dog. She just go Team USA. That's what she's saying.
Is that Baylor?
It is Baylor. She has to say hello in all of the, every time I'm on Zoom, she has to say hi. So Stu, you've done a number of campaigns. What are you looking forward to most about Tokyo?
Well, you know, it's our chance to put in our personal best Olympic performance, and probably my last chance. I've really enjoyed being part of the Olympic game, and I hope it's always a part of my life. But you know, at this stage, as things stand, you know, it'll be potentially our final work in the 470, and I'm really looking forward to having the opportunity to put it all together.
Awesome. I know the 470 will be moving to mixed after this cycle. So I know we'll all be cheering for you guys in Tokyo.
Thank you, Bri.
Yeah. So Paige, this next one's for you. I think many of the athletes kind of refer to you as the resident expert. You have this such fun vibe about you, and you have this resiliency that makes a lot of people say to themselves, gosh, I want to be like Paige. Can you talk about some of the campaigns you've done and how you're able to really enjoy yourself as you're kind of going through the grind of everything that an Olympic campaign entails?
Well, I like to view sailing as, you know, a long sport and long goals. So, you know, I set out when I was 15 to become like a pro athlete as a kid. And what I realized is that you're not going to achieve all your goals in one cycle. And if you want to have if you want to do an Olympic campaign, you can look at it as maybe it'll be 10, 15 years in the making. So my parents always taught me that every time you get knocked down, you have to get back up. And, you know, there's no questions about it. Life's also really short. So I try to enjoy the process as I go along, because each day that I'm working towards my goals, another day forward that I'm growing and experiencing life. So I don't want to waste any of my days. And I wake up grateful for the position that I'm in, the hard work that I can put in, and the achievements that I've had. I don't live in the past and I don't live in the future. I try to live in the present. And each day I just try to take advantage of it as much as I can and enjoy everything that comes with the goal, which means losing and winning. So I think it's in your head that you can take losing as a negative, but I actually take losing as a task that I can try to overcome, and it's a new challenge. So I try not to beat myself up. I try to take all the different opportunities I've given and try to make something better of myself.
That's fantastic. I think that's really good advice for any of the young sailors who are following this today. That's great. And welcome, Farah. Farah was able to join us, so thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay. So we know that Steph and Maggie have a big following out in Lake Beulah. So if you're joining from Lake Beulah, please give us a shout. I don't know what's in the water up there, but they breed Olympians. They breed very good sailors. So, I know that they're all very proud of you. So if you're from Lake Beulah, please give us a shout. And for those listening, maybe some don't know, Steph and Maggie, that you guys sailed together in high school in 29ers and then raced radials against each other before that. So I guess this is kind of a two-part question. I mean, what does it mean to be doing this together? And what moment are you most looking forward to sharing with each other in Tokyo?
Who wants to go first? So yeah, Steph and I first sailed a 29er together in 2005.
Against Bree.
Yeah, against Bree. Bree kicked our butt.
No.
But Steph and I, we were actually rivals before that in the laser radial, and had a lot of respect for each other as competitors, and have since become really good friends, and sailing with and against each other in so many different boats over the last 15 years has been quite a journey and a privilege. And I felt really lucky to be able to do it with one of my best friends. And we've grown up a lot together as teammates and athletes and sailors and people. And that's just been such a pleasure to do with someone that you really care about and love, but no, it's really, we're really psyched about how we've grown as people together. And so I guess that's what I would say. I'm really looking forward to sharing this experience with Steph.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything Maggie said. Just to echo what Paige was saying, it's so much about the journey and the process of all this. And I'm really lucky I get to do it with Maggie by my side and someone I really enjoy going on the water with every day.
And we push each other too. We're extremely competitive. Even today on our little quarantine workout, we were trying to kill each other. And it was, that was successful in a good workout.
That's fantastic. I know you guys will have so many great pictures and so many great experiences. I'm so excited thinking about that for you. So as we move on to talking about the Olympics themselves, Pedro, you had an incredible thing happen to you in Rio at the opening ceremonies. Do you want to talk a little bit about what the opening is like and what it feels like to walk into Maracana Stadium?
Yeah, it was definitely the best experience of my life. I was able to get on the front row with Joe Morris. He's not here now, but he was at the last Olympics, and that was just insane. I don't know how many people were there, but they were all shouting USA, USA, and yeah, it was just the best experience of my life, and I'm looking forward to trying to get in the first row again this year.
So how do you do that? I mean, there's 500 American athletes. I mean, what's the technique to get, you were walking in literally next to Michael Phelps, right?
There's not really a technique. You just go there, make friends with the front row, whoever's there. So we were friends with the water polo team, me and Joe. And I'm not really sure how it happened, but we ended up in the first row and we're in all the pictures. So that was a goal and we made it. So that was the first step towards a good experience.
Awesome. I'm sorry about my dog. It's she didn't get the memo or something. That's
I
so
saw
great.
it happen with Pedro. He ran right by me with Joe. and they just kept pushing to the front. It was incredible. They tried to tag
That was
some
it.
people along, but I don't know, they had the guts to do it. That was pretty good. Impressive.
Joe, I didn't know we could get there, and Joe told me like there was no like setup or anything, and he convinced me, and I'm happy he did.
Yeah, man with a plan.
It was his fault though.
That's so great. And one amazing part of the Olympics is the Olympic Village and the athlete village. So I know for Rio, that housed about 18,000 athletes, which was the biggest Olympic village in the history of the games. Charlie, do you want to talk a little bit about what the village was like and maybe a favorite moment you had staying there?
I think for me, the best part about the village is the atmosphere. There's just this buzz that you can't really describe unless you're there. Everybody's excited. Everybody's ready to compete. And I guess for me, the atmosphere was the best part, and just being around all these big name athletes. I remember, I think the first night I was there, I sat down with my good friend Cy Thompson and Andrew Lewis, two guys that I sail lasers with and train with a lot. And we were sitting in the dining hall, and Manu Ginobili, a famous Argentine basketball player, just sat down right next to us. And I mean, he was just eating dinner alone, didn't know who we were, but we were pretty amazed that he was right there. And then Pau Gasol walked in, and they said hi to each other, and he sat down with Manu Ginobili, and they were just right next to us at the same table. And I think the same night, Andy Murray came into the dining hall. There was one moment on the rest day at the Olympics in the Team USA building. I was getting a snack, and I got into the to the elevator, and Michael Phelps was there with his hood on and his headphones with like his Phelps face going on, getting ready for his race that day. So I don't know, you see a lot of different athletes, and the atmosphere is amazing, and it's just a really cool experience.
The village is so big too. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of things. Did anybody get the McDonald's in Rio, or want to share about what that's like?
The line's huge in McDonald's. And I know my coach, Steve Mitchell, he talks about the McDonald's a lot in the village. But I went there just to try to like get the McDonald's in the village, but literally the line was out the door. I swear, like every athlete, it's as though they would restrict it for years and years from McDonald's. And then the line was just like so long, I didn't want to wait.
Oh my gosh. And Paige, what's your take on life in the village?
Well, when I first walked in, I'll never forget, I was like, well, no wonder why they consider these people like demigods, like there's all these like good looking people walking around, like all these buff bodies. And I'm like, you're surrounded by like these people that put all of their dedication and like everything into their sport. And I was just amazed because you see all these different type of bodies as well. Like, you see the wrestlers and the gymnasts and these tall basketball guys. And I always thought in life that I was a pretty tall person. And then I go to the village and I feel so short at 5'8". There's like these freak of natures walking around. Like, I mean, there's some avatars there. And then you have the little gymnasts who are eating like 2 peas on their plate. So it's just pretty amazing to see all the different types of people.
I think the other cool thing too is that all the countries share, or at least in Rio, all the countries shared buildings together. And I think, at least for me, that was really cool to build a sense of camaraderie with athletes from other sports. Obviously, our team, the sailing team, had a great relationship going into the Olympics, but being surrounded by other American athletes and getting to know them and talking about their experiences was really cool as well. I think that's a unique aspect of the Olympics.
For sure. And Farah, this question is for you. And so there's different types of villages. And in London, when you competed, you guys were in a remote village. And so do you want to talk a little bit about what maybe, because in Oshima, you guys are going to have a remote village. So you want to talk a little bit about what that's like, and maybe what some of the athletes can expect?
Well, we are in the remote village with just sailors. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. And actually, I really liked it because it was very calm, and I had a great roommate, Paige, and it felt like very small, very communal, and the U.S. team was all together, so we got to interact every day, and we got to eat together every day. The cafeteria was small, the security line was small, so it really just felt like the sailing was in its own little world. But you also had the locals who were really interested in what was going on and very proud of what was happening, and a lot of great volunteers. And so it was like a mini experience of the whole thing. And I actually really liked it because I'm a very introverted person. So for me, the village was great, the smaller village.
I resonate with what you're saying because it took me one morning 30 minutes to get through the breakfast security line, not even to like get into the village, but just to be able to like eat breakfast, checking your backpack and everything. So I feel like I hear you on the benefits of it being small. And so maybe this question can be for some of the first time Olympians we have in the group. And so we talked a little bit about, the celebrity sightings in the village. Is there anybody that you guys are looking forward to meeting or maybe taking a picture with at the games? Any famous celebrity athlete? Anna and Riley, do you want to kick us off?
I don't really have one. I guess we're kind of just there to do a job, but just hearing what everyone who has experience going to previous games is saying is, it's really something to look forward to. So don't really have anyone at the moment, but I'm sure, if LeBron was to walk in front of me, I'd definitely want to get a photo with him. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't really think of anyone in particular. I mean, there's a lot of female athletes that I've always looked up to, so it'll be kind of cool to hopefully meet some of them. But me being like a fangirl, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Luke, what about you?
For me, I would say meeting some of the gymnasts would be pretty fun. Ever since I was little, I really enjoyed following the gymnasts, and so yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah,
Team
Simone Biles.
Yeah, Simone.
Luke, what about you?
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing people that I know, or athletes that I know by association at the Olympics. I went to school at Stanford, and there are a lot of athletes that'll be at Tokyo, like the cross country mountain biker Kate Courtney, a few swimmers, and my friend Kaylee Blevins' brother. Her name's Christopher Blevins, and he's an amazing mountain bike racer. So I'm really looking forward to, I guess, relating to them and seeing them on another level at the Olympics. I think that'll be really exciting.
That's awesome. I know there was a couple people from BC who went, but yeah, that's really neat to get to see people from your college. And just a shout out to those who are following us live. Thank you. If you would like to follow any of these athletes on their journeys outside of this portal session, there is a link their handles are in the description in the portal for you. So please check those out. And now I think it would be great to talk about the preparation and the venue. And so for Stu and Dave, I mean, you guys have sailed in a lot of places. Can you describe the venue in Japan and maybe some of the challenges or opportunities that the sailing there presents?
Sure. Firstly, the venue in Japan is, the facilities are as good as any other Olympics that we've attended. Large boat park, etc. Japan, for those who haven't been, is always a challenge with transportation, and during the Olympics, it's more of a challenge. And sort of connected to your previous topic about the village, we will be in a satellite village again in Tokyo, as mentioned, and that should make things quite easy. And I know Bree, you had some long trips from the village to the marina in Brazil, and hopefully that's not a problem for these athletes this time. That being said, the actual on water courses are quite close to the marina in Oshima. There are some challenges, however, namely fishing nets that seem to be splitting the courses, so they're often a bit of a hazard of navigation, but the sailors seem to not mind that now that they've gotten used to it. And in terms of the sea state, it can be a bit of a mixed bag. You can get a lumpy sort of 8 to 11 knot sea breeze with quite a bit of swell. You can get some very turbulent offshore breezes. You could even get some pre or post frontal. You could also, that part of the world can get a lot of, any sort of major storms, and it can be a bit of a nightmare in one of the post-storm situations. So it does make the preparation from a weather sense a little bit more challenging than, say, some other Olympics like Weymouth, which was a little bit more straightforward. However, it's not dissimilar to what we experienced in Brazil, in that we were all sort of getting used to one weather pattern, and then the Olympics came, as you remember, Bree, and it was just totally different. So I suppose that's the games, and every games that we've been a part of, it seems like that's the deal. You just have to be ready for anything.
Paige, what do you think about, what's your take on the venue in Japan?
Well, it's blistering hot. Well, we've been there. My coach he's a big dude, and like, I'm from Florida, and you think I'd be able to handle the heat, but I gotta say, it is incredibly hot in Japan. So all of you listeners out there, if you guys have some pretty cool whatever gizmos that you could recommend the team, we are up for anything that can keep us cooler. Besides that, the people in Japan are amazing. They're so helpful. I mean, they're by the rules, which is it's great. I love it. Everything's incredibly organized, like to a T, and it's clean. So I enjoy it. It's all the different venues that I've been to for the games have been different. And this one's just a different culture, different experience. And it's like pretty fun to go there and just see how another country is going to run the Olympics.
Yeah, for sure. I know Steph and Maggie, I follow you guys on social. I follow all of you on social, but I know recently you guys were training in Miami and you were exploring different, you were trying to like figure out the heat situation. Did you learn anything?
Did we figure it out? No, I'm kidding. Well, it was actually funny. I moved from Chicago down to Miami to be near Steph and train and everything. And the week I moved down there was like a record-breaking hottest ever week in Miami. So I got down there and I was like, I can't do this. This is unbelievable. But we did actually implement some Japan techniques.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is just making sure you stay up with the hydration. It's not something you just do on the water. It's a full-time job outside of sailing, and making sure that when you come off the water that you're instantly rehydrating. And we were learning a bit about our sweat rates and how much sweat we were losing in a typical session. And we were also experimenting a little bit with some ice vests, and then also just like having ice packs in the cooler that we put down our life jackets between drills to help cool down. And I don't know, like when you pull the boat up at the end of the day and you get the hose water on your face, it just feels so good.
Or it still feels hot.
It's still hot, yes.
Sometimes it's still hot. But we learned a lot about the right combinations of electrolytes that you need and what time of day you need to start drinking them. So it actually was a really good experience, but very hot. Yeah. I think the water was actually warmer in Miami than Japan.
Yeah, it wasn't refreshing.
No,
that's for sure.
no, at least Japan, it's a little bit nice. The Pacific Ocean's kind of cool. So we got that.
That's great. And I know, I mean, I can imagine the last 6 months have, been very difficult with everything going on as you think about, peaking for the Olympics and getting this extra year added. I mean, Riley and Anna, how have you guys been able to, what have you guys been doing for training, and what do you hope, what does your training look like as you approach the Olympics?
Yeah, we've had some time off recently just from sailing the NACRA together, but we'll be out sailing today in the 17, and we thought it was only right to go sailing on the day of what would have been the opening ceremonies. But independently, what you've been working out pretty aggressively in Florida, and I've been out here sailing ACATs and kiting and cycling every single day. So independently, we're keeping track of it and improving day by day. But as it's still a bit unknown, as everything is in life right now. So as far as like preparation, we're only trying to control what we can. So that means like just knowing our equipment to a T and what works for us. So.
And you guys recently just got reunited in Long Beach. What did you guys do when you first started training together? Or, what are you guys planning on doing in the boat, or?
Yeah, do you mean like our new approach to training, or just?
I guess it's like when you're sailing, what are you guys planning on doing? Are you, do you focus on a particular thing, or do you just get back to the basics, or?
Yeah, we've been keeping it pretty light recently. Just recently taught Anna how to kite. So, got ripping around both tacks pretty proficiently after the second day. But as far as like 17 sailing and keeping it fresh, we, because we joined up so recently last year together, our kind of pathway to qualifying in the trials was pretty intense and quite aggressive as far as our training resume. So for us, we're just trying to keep it fun right now and get back into the boat, maybe do a couple coastal races by ourselves and sail around Catalina maybe one of these days out here in Long Beach. But Sally's showing up here on Sunday, and she'll be in town to crack the whip, so we'll get our heads straight again.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to incorporate a lot of different training as well, like me learning how to kite foil and ACAT sailing as well, to just supplement our NACRA training, because now we have the time and the resources to do so. And I think that's what we were missing all of last year. We just went straight into racing after not even being in the boat for like 3 weeks, I think. So like all we did last year was race. So we're excited to actually be training now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm sure there are some, young aspiring female athletes out there who have thought maybe about trying to foil. So hopefully you've inspired them to give that a try. I might have to give that a try because you've just.
If I can do it from a laser, anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's so great. So as we keep going, I'd love to transition now more to the mental side of sailing, and really what it means when you get to the starting line of one of the biggest and most important races of your life. How do you approach that mentally? Paige, do you want to start us off? You talked a little bit about the mental stuff before.
Yeah, actually it's funny. I was just talking to my trainer about it today. One of the biggest things that I think for the new guys that are going is the Olympics is probably more mental than skill. And the reason being is a lot of people get it in their head. It's, oh, wow, I finally made it to the Olympics. I've been working my whole life to get here. And they have a lot of pressure and nerves. So my biggest recommendation is the amount of time you spend training in the gym and in the boat, you should actually be spending working on the mental game as well, which means going through everything inside of your head. You need to confront your own demons. You need to confront your own fears. You need to put a realistic goal that you want and go through every single emotion that you're going to feel when you're on the starting line. And it's not just the starting line, but imagine you're first in a race. Sorry about that. My phone's dying. It's like, imagine you're first in a race, or you round the windward mark, top 3. How are you going to feel? How are you going to feel when you look over and there's a press boat? I think it's just really important that you look yourself in the mirror and go, what are my weaknesses? How am I going to feel when the pressure is truly on? And, honestly, during this whole COVID time, I've been spending probably just as much as the same amount of time physically training as I have been doing the mental training.
And so I'd love to get some more perspectives on that. Stu and Dave, I mean, how do you approach a race like the Olympics mentally?
Well, on one hand, you want to make your big regattas like just another practice. You're on the starting line, you're against boats, you do the same mechanics. And so you look at it from that point of view, but on the flip side, it's not any other race. And so it's always interesting to have that split. And there's so much more going on outside of what's happening on the water. That's really what it is. And then there's the added interest and complexity that is the event, which you've specifically been tailoring your preparation towards, whether that's your mental, your physical, your technique. And so it's, I talked a little bit about it earlier, but it's a great opportunity to pull together what you've been working on. And that's a mental challenge in and unto itself. You spend a lot of time preparing your skills and you practice integrating your skills, but now it's the test. But it's a really long test, and you need to go in with the attitude that you want to be better on the last day than you were on the first day. And we've talked about that before here, and that can allow freshness and a learning mindset that is also important for your best performances.
For sure. And to piggyback off this thought for a second, Charlie, you've crossed the finish line of the first race at the Olympics. Like, what does that feel like? What are the emotions as you finish your first race?
Bria, did you ask me the question? My internet skipped.
Yes.
Sorry. What's the feeling crossing the finish line the first race? I think for me, that was a really interesting feeling. I was having a good race and actually made a tough decision in the middle of the race, and a couple of things didn't go my way, and I lost probably 15 boats, and I crossed the finish line and kind of felt like it was really interesting feeling. Yeah, like the first race of the Olympics is finished and that opportunity is gone. And I think that was a really interesting feeling, and it just showed me that when you're on the water, it's important to practice with intention and purpose, because that moment comes really quickly. And I think the more that you can bring yourself to that moment every day in practice, the more prepared you'll be for it. And so, yeah, that was the feeling I had after the first race, and it just made me realize the importance of being in the moment and taking every practice seriously to be ready for that moment.
That's a great answer. And Pedro, what about you? What was that like for you to finish the first race? Or you've worked so hard for this, and you build all this, the idea in your head, and then you start and you finish. And what was that like for you?
It interesting for me too. Just like Charlie, I didn't have my best race ever. It didn't go my way, and I was kind of disappointed. Like he said, it's like I blew my first opportunity of just doing good in my first race at the games. But I just tried to forget it and just started thinking about the next race, and it actually went a lot better. But yeah, I was really excited, really nervous, and it didn't go my way. I have to live with it. I'll be fine. And yeah, I just focus on the next one and yeah, learn from it.
And Steph and Maggie, maybe you guys can touch on this. Maybe through your experience with the trials and the Pan Ams and other big events you guys have done. I mean, what's it like when you're right before the start? I mean, you're doing your warm up and it's about to go. I mean, what's going on in your head, and how do you? I mean, what's that like?
I think, obviously there's a lot of excitement around any race, and, we haven't been to the games yet. We did do the Pan Am Games last year, and, I can imagine the excitement is even more with the Olympics, but I think, with our whole approach is really process oriented, and we use that excitement to fuel our focus towards that process. And so we go out and we have our pre-race checklist that we hammer through. And if we've gone through it and we still have time to burn, we go through it again, or we find another way to kind of almost keep ourselves entertained until that starting line gun goes off. And then we have our next process that we focus on. And I remember when we did the Pan Am Games last year, Malcolm Page was there with us, and he gave us some really nice advice that was the boat and the sails and the equipment and the water and the wind don't know it's the games. So it's just you who knows, and you don't have to go out there and do anything different. Your equipment's there for you to perform. You have to go out and perform your best and not do anything different than you normally would in any other race.
Yeah, and I would just add that we haven't competed in the Olympics, but we certainly have had like important races where we felt nervous and we felt anxious, and I can only imagine the Olympics is that, but amplified. And so we've worked really hard on like intentionally sort of focusing on the process instead of letting the clutter distract you, so we're human. We'll admit, oh, I'm really nervous right now, or oh, there's a lot on the line, I'm really amped, or whatever it might be, and like just saying it, then you kind of let your teammate help you out a little bit, but like Steph said, then the focus is on, okay, then let's focus on what we need to eat for this race, okay, and then what's the breeze doing, and just the prompting questions to get our minds back on the task at hand. That's what we really work on. So I think we'll keep doing more of the same, hopefully this year. Keep focusing on the process.
That's awesome. So I'd love to end with one question for everybody, and then we can go into kind of a quick rapid fire, and then we'll take questions from the audience. Shout out to our American Magic friends in Auckland. Hello from us. And okay, so the question I'd love to just get an answer from everyone on is what are some of your early Olympic memories, or a favorite moment as a child when you watched the games, and did it impact your desire to want to be an Olympian? So just to go left up to right on my screen. So Steph and Maggie, do you want to start us off? Sorry to put you on the spot.
I would say early Olympic, watching the divers, I didn't really know like what they were doing or what they were being ranked on or graded on, but I thought that it looked so cool, and then you could kind of gather by the scoring system like what they were executing, and I just had a lot of appreciation. I just thought what they were doing was amazing. That's what I remember watching as a kid. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I really enjoyed watching the gymnasts growing up. I had a little gymnast time in my life, so I definitely really loved following them. And I think there's just so much focus that goes into being a gymnast, and I really admired that. So yeah, that's my earliest memory.
Awesome. Charlie, what about for you?
I'd say for me, my whole family was really passionate about the Olympics, and I was pretty young, but I specifically remember watching the track and field in Atlanta, and Michael Johnson with his golden spikes, and being super inspired by that when I was younger. And then in Sydney 2000, I actually specifically remember watching the final laser race with my dad on the Outdoor Life Network, and that was, I think at that time, I was just getting into sailing myself, and I was watching Ben Ainsley and Robert Scheidt on TV, and I didn't make any decisions there, but I think subconsciously, I was thinking that could be that looked really cool at the time. And I thought I loved sailing, and I just thought that was the coolest looking thing ever. And I ended up racing against Robert 16 years later in the laser. So, but yeah, I'd say those two Olympics, watching them on TV, Sydney and Atlanta, really inspired me.
That's great. And Stu and Dave?
For me, it was the Winter Olympics, watching luge and bobsled. As they go down, people ring the cowbells on the side of the track, and I just thought it was really cool. I always enjoyed when it came around.
Same here, Winter Olympics for sure. I didn't even know there was a Summer Olympics for many, many years. I do remember my first memory of the games was the Sarajevo Olympics, which is probably dating me a little bit. And I was really into the men's downhill. And then in '88 was Calgary, and I really wanted to watch the men's downhill again. And I really wanted to go to the Olympics in skiing, but that didn't seem to happen. So.
And Paige.
I feel like I'm gonna sound like a Debbie Downey here, but the first time I ever saw the Olympics was '96, and my family was watching it on the big TV downstairs in the living room. And I remember it was the opening ceremony, and I just said, "Oh, this is so boring," and I left the room. And I never had dreams of going to the Olympics, and I was that person that just fell into it when I was 16. So I never watched the Olympics. I learned about it in Greek mythology. And yeah, the first time I ever saw it, I thought it was boring, which I can't believe it. And so I've been to 3 Olympic Games now. So I'm saying this story because for all of you people who think you're late bloomers, like I've had 15, 16-year-olds reach out to me and they're like, is it too late to go to the games? And I'm like, oh no, it's definitely not too late to have dreams for the games. So yeah, that's mine.
I didn't know that, Paige. That's funny. Pedro, what about for you?
I don't really remember what my first memory was about the Olympics, but I remember watching Usain Bolt doing his world record breaking performance, I think in Beijing, not sure. And that was pretty incredible. And yeah, I was really inspired by that.
And Anna and Riley.
I think for me, kind of like Charlie said, my family is really big into the Olympics. So I feel like my parents probably never thought that they'd have a child as an Olympian. So that's kind of funny. But I have a similar kind of path to Paige, but one memory that I had that thought it would be really cool to go to the Olympics one day is when Anna Tunnicliffe came and spoke at Lauderdale Yacht Club, where I'm from. And I got a picture with her and the gold medal, and it was like so heavy. But that was a really cool moment. And I think she's been one of my biggest inspirations to kind of go after the Olympics. So shout out to Anna.
Yeah, and for me, my mom wants me to answer in Park City is probably my first memory of it. Going to Park City with my grandparents and my family, and getting a beanie, a Roots beanie. I think I still have it in my dresser at home, but that's probably my first memory. But not to date Stu and Dave at all, but remember being at ABYC at the Olympic trials before '08.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so you guys are definitely a bit of my inspiration to that, as well as Molly Carpier and Molly Vandemore. I remember being 12 years old and thinking, what would help what would help Molly or Team Molly out, and I made this little secret potion in a water bottle of like different soap mixes and stuff, and I gave it to him, and I was like, here, this is gonna help you win the trials. But yeah, that unfortunately they lost the trials, but no, that was definitely where I got a lot of my inspiration, was watching you guys.
I'm not drinking anything he gives me.
Yeah, that's the
photo.
photo.
That's the photo. There we are.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah. People tell me that I look the same, but I don't know that I do.
Your hair's a little more put together in
Yeah.
that photo.
Oh, that's giving me all the feels.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Riley, I'd say we'd have to market your potion and sell it to all of the youth sailors out there, but if it didn't work, I don't know if we can do that.
I've probably got the formula written down somewhere. I'll go back in my archives and take a look.
Yeah, that'd be great. Farah, what about for you?
For me, I've always been really into the Olympics, and I can remember watching every single Olympics on television. I can even remember in the 80s as a little kid watching it with my mother, who's a huge cheerleader of mine. And first I wanted to go to the Olympics in swimming, and that wasn't happening. And then I wanted to go in distance running, 1600, which wasn't happening either. So I taught myself to windsurf later in life, after high school. And during college, I went to St. Mary's College of Maryland, which has a good sailing team. And the sailing team was visited by Mike Gebhardt, who's a two-time Olympian in windsurfing, or I'm sorry, four-time Olympian, two-time medalist in windsurfing. And he said, hey, windsurfing is an Olympic sport. I was like, oh, really? Okay, I'm going to try that. And then it took me about 6 years to be able to go to Europe and start competing after that. So it was a long, slow process.
And I think last but not least, Luke.
Yeah, so it's funny that Farah mentioned Mike Gebhardt. Mike Gebhardt was my neighbor growing up. And so he was always around us. He was kind of like an uncle growing up with my family, me and my younger brother and my older siblings. And he sailed against and coached my older brother, Philip, who participated in 2 Olympic trials. And he never made it. His second time, he was only 17 and nearly qualified. But my family, my mom, I was born and my mom took me to the 96 Olympics. I was in diapers. I don't remember it, but it's definitely in my blood. And I remember before, I believe it was before Beijing, or maybe Athens, Golf Friedman from Israel was training with Mike Gebhardt out of our local town, and they'd go out and they'd pump in their windsurfers for hours and hours and hours. They'd do it every single day. And I would always make sandcastles, and I thought it was, crazy what they were doing. And then he went off and he won the gold medal. And I thought that if it could happen in my backyard with the people that I'm around and, the people that I know, and seeing that work ethic, I thought, maybe if I worked hard enough, I could get there. So it's definitely been a big part of my life, and it's really fulfilling to finally be here.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so excited for all of you guys. And so I'm being reminded that we want to try and stick to our timeline of an hour, which is coming up here very soon. So I think we'll scrap the rapid fire and take some questions from the audience for the next, 10 minutes or so, and then we can sign off. So we have a question, and whoever wants to take this, would love to hear about strategies for staying upbeat and preparing in the face of COVID uncertainty. Paige, do you want to take that one?
I was like, who's gonna talk? Strategies for staying upbeat during COVID. Well, like I always tell people, the way that you think it's a choice. So I can choose to be negative and upset or doubtful about the Olympics. But instead I'm choosing to try to see the positives during a tough time. And with that, it's every single day. I'm like, okay, what can I do to get one step closer to my goal? So, I'm taking all this time as an opportunity to get stronger, as an opportunity to grow, which means I'm only going to be better prepared for the Olympics. So with everything in life comes a choice, and I just choose to walk down we'll say the positive route. And even if it's a tough place, like every single day we're going, it's been how many months of this now? You just have to make a decision every day that you're going to choose to see it as an opportunity rather than a negative.
Riley and Anna, do you have anything you want to add?
I guess, we, as a team, we kind of went through phases individually of like, who was motivated, who wasn't motivated. But, now that we're back together, and I guess that's bringing some light onto the issue for us, is like, we kind of can see it as a physical team. And, now that we're back together again, it's like, we can really work towards our mission. So I think our kind of like reuniting, I guess, has helped motivate us both. So. And and having fun with it, I think it'll definitely go a long way for us. It's not like, okay, we're just back to the grindstone every single day. It's like, how are we going to enjoy this and really find happiness in it again, I think.
Yeah, I think especially going into the next year, I mean, we didn't have a lot of time because we just teamed up a little over a year now. And so we were expecting to be in the games now and like still pretty inexperienced. And now we just are taking every day kind of as an opportunity because it's almost like a gift we've been given. And so just finding that, like Riley said, that healthy balance, between life and sailing is going to be super important for us, and staying positive and motivated. And he mentions motivation, and I think I was learning about the word motivation during quarantine, actually, because I think a better word would be discipline, because motivation, you can't really stay on track with motivation, because motivation comes and goes, but having that discipline to keep getting after it every day is what is really going to matter. So I think just finding that discipline and keeping it going and having fun.
That's a really great distinction. Farah, what about you? How have you been staying upbeat during quarantine or during COVID?
Well, first of all, Pedro and I had one of the tougher quarantines out there, especially Pedro, because he was in Spain. I've been in France, and he's been even more confined than me. In France, we had about 6 weeks of confinement, and we were able to go outside, but just with this document that you had to sign, an attestation of honor saying that you're not out doing something dumb, basically. So we were really confined all day. So I think what really worked for me is exactly what Anna was saying, is just discipline. And I've never been short of that. So for me, actually, the quarantine was super easy. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it was nice. Like, I was at home with my husband, and I had like all my physical training equipment there in the living room with my bike. And so I just would train and then hang out with my husband. We worked in the garden and did a lot of visualizing and preparing for the switch from RSX to foil. So kind of being able to take the time to think outside the box about what kind of training I was going to do next. And I took some courses with the Fédération Française de Voile, also towards being a coach later on, and some technical courses, and that was really cool and amazing. It was a great opportunity for that. And so anyway, like I came out and I was super excited to sail. And I think that the first day we were back on the water, there were like 100 people at the ramp and everybody was foiling. So, and it kind of continued along those lines every day. It's been going crazy and no one stopped. So it was nice to have that time just to be cool and just take the time to think about things and figure out what I want to do and prepare a little bit for the future. So I was happy. I really enjoyed quarantine.
Maybe we can take some enjoyment, some of your enjoyment. You can give it to me. Pedro, what about you?
Yeah, like Farah said, I was stuck in Spain and I had no equipment to train with or anything. So I had to set up like a home gym with all, like I had a broken boom, some straps. So I did like a pull-up bar and, just a couple of things that I had to put some imagination into. But it was good overall. Like I managed to train physically almost every day and go for a run. Even though we were confined, I was in the middle of the countryside, so I could go for a run and do some cardio training too. And yeah, just to keep motivated, I just thought about the main goal. It's just a year out, and I'm just looking forward to it and training as much and as I can to be prepared for it.
Awesome. So I think let's end on one final question, and we can hear from a number of people or athletes here. If you could give advice to a younger sailor who is looking up to you, what would that be? And or just like if you think back to when you were a youth sailor, maybe something you'd tell yourself now being in this position. Luke, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I can try to tackle that one. I don't know. I would say that if you really, really want to do this, know that it's a really long road. It's really hard. Be prepared to work hard, seek out the best training group that you can. I was really lucky to be a part of an amazing group of youth sailors in Fort Lauderdale, and then afterwards sailing with some of the best people that sailed the boats I sailed with. I think seek information from every coach you can. Be the person that always asks questions and takes notes and reviews those notes. Just try to be the hardest worker in the room, and be disciplined, but take care of yourself. Push until you can't, and then, take care of yourself a little bit and then push a little more, and really enjoy it. Recognize that we're extremely lucky to be involved in a sport that's on the water in beautiful places and with extremely bright and hardworking individuals. And keep at it. Don't stop.
Paige, what advice do you have for some youth sailors following you who want to be just like you?
Let's see. I went from a jellyfish slinging. That was what I was more worried about, filling up my baler, throwing jellyfish at my friends. I failed my Learn to Sail program. So I remember my parents were happy that I finished races. So my biggest advice is to have a lot of fun when you're a kid. And don't think opties are the Olympic Games, because you can be a really terrible opti sailor and not make much of yourself then. And then you can get into a boat in your teen years and make something of yourself. And that was my career. So I think the biggest thing before you go into the whole Olympic path is have a lot of fun. And then when you join the Olympic path, you have to have fun as well. Because let's see, I'm 33 now and I started when I was 8 and I'm still enjoying sailing as much as possible. So of course you have your diligence and your hard work and your training, but every single day you got to wake up and say, what's nice about today? What am I enjoying?
Awesome. And we'll end this question with Steph and Maggie's perspective on that, and then we actually have 2 more questions we're going to ask and then we'll end. So Steph and Maggie, what advice do you have for youth sailors?
I think I can just kind of piggyback off what Paige said. Shout out to Lake Beulah like you did earlier, Bree, but we definitely had a really fun sailing environment there. And similar to Paige, we went from playing like sponge tag, and the Beulah Fun Regatta was my most favorite regatta ever, where you walk into the yacht club and guess how many M&Ms were in the candy jar, and I don't know, it was just really fun. And so I think that environment just made me fall in love with the sport and being on the water, and I really appreciate that and really value that later in life, because I think that's a really important part of this journey is finding the fun and enjoying every day.
Yeah, I would say that that results really don't matter until they matter. And in junior sailing, and like when you're still learning, they don't matter. You know, you might like regattas are important, your accomplishments, you can cherish them and you can find, you know, be proud of them. But don't put too much pressure on yourself to produce results in junior sailing. I can show you a lot of regattas that Steph won, and good for her. She was great at junior sailing, and a lot of regattas that I got last place. And now we're literally in the same boat. You know, like your learning curves are different rates, and you know, you can learn later in life. And if you commit yourself to learning how to learn and having a growth mindset at a young age, that will set you up better for challenges later in life, whether it be sailing or work or whatever it might be. But yeah, if you're getting last place right now, that's totally fine. Someone's got to do it, and I've done it, so it's okay. Results don't matter.
I love that. I got last a bunch in Staffits. They were not my thing. Charlie Buckingham can tell you I was terrible. Yeah, actually I was. It's okay.
You had a sick boat too.
Yeah, the Shooting Star. That was it.
632.
Yeah, there you go. So we have a question from the audience for Stu and Dave about their recent training in Marion. How's that been going? And you know, how's that been for you guys?
It's been fantastic. For me, it's been a return to the waters I grew up sailing on. And it's a treat to get back out on Buzzards Bay. The Beverly Yacht Club community has been very welcoming. The Coles sisters are launching out of their club right now. And, you know, Jack Gerhardt has offered his mooring. And so really everyone's pitching in to make it happen. And it's been great to have Dave here. And for me, kind of along the theme of bringing it all together, we're living with my two kids, with my wife, Tanya, Dave. We have the 470 in the front yard. It's really, it's a big, happy family here. And of course, the support of Thomas and Kate have been incredibly important as well. But it's pretty good breeze here. And I think that the holistic approach here of sailing hard, but also doing things right on shore will bring some of the gains we've been looking for.
What boat are you guys cross training in?
The Laser Radio.
Woo! And who's the Laser Radio reigning champion? I think it's Dave Hughes there.
I don't know. Thomas is pretty good. I mean, but we think it's a little unfair because he has done an Olympics in the later, so he's skewed in our book. You know, we get a lot of Laser Radio.
Yeah.
No, Stu said it perfectly, and I would just add that this whole situation that we're in is obviously, you know, it's out of our hands, but also can be in our control as much as possible. And our perspective on sailing is not necessarily to wake up and think about the Olympics, but rather to wake up and think about how to become better athletes. And in doing that, then we will have a successful Olympics. And to wake up here, you know, be part of the family, go sailing. And in fact, we're sailing out of the same place that we did that training camp. Must have been, 6 years ago now? I'm not sure.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was one of my favorites.
Exactly.
You guys are living the dream then.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
Maybe you'll have to make that the U.S. sailing team base.
By all respects, it should be. You got to deal with a 2.5 and a 5-year-old. They tend to crawl. Great welcoming party when we get back to shore each day.
That's so great. So our last question is one that I'm excited to ask, and we'll just go through everybody and we'll end. So what is your pre-Olympic meal going to be? Steph and Maggie, do you want to start us off?
French toast and strawberries.
Well, and Maggie's so good at making French toast that I'll just join the party as well.
Yeah, it's an excellent combination, protein, carbohydrates. It's a winning meal.
Love it. Charlie, what about you? Pre-Olympic meal.
I like to have a pretty hearty breakfast. So for me, it's bacon, eggs, toast, and avocado.
And Stu and Dave, what about you guys?
Oh man, you know, when we're in Japan, we tend to go local, and you know, we like the rice balls there.
Yeah.
I know Riley Gibbs is online, and you know, he probably agrees. But you know,
Convenience stores have great options.
you can't beat them. Family Mart all the way.
What's in a rice bowl?
Rice ball. The rice ball.
Oh, rice ball. Sorry.
You can put anything in that. I mean, you know, and make sure you bring your translator, because you might get a fish one. You never know.
Yeah, good tip. That's a good tip. Bring a translator for those that are going to come to Tokyo and watch everybody. Anna and Riley, what about you?
So we just talked about this and we're on the same page, but I mean, breakfast, like we'll do whatever, but we're planning on having a late start. So it's going to have to be sushi for both of us.
Afternoon start.
Yeah. Afternoon start. So sushi.
Or a rice ball if Dave's there.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get a delivery, a rice delivery. Farah, what about you?
Well, I don't know if we're still talking about breakfast, but I have an awesome Japanese training partner, and she makes amazing curry and amazing barbecue and everything. So I really want her to cook for me before the Olympics. And oh yeah, she's making rice balls for me too. We lived together during the Worlds in Australia in February. So she's making rice balls for me that we could eat between races. So it was really cute and fun. And
that's a good friend right there. That's great.
Yeah, she's a great
Luke,
friend.
Yeah. Luke, what's your pre-Olympic meal going to be?
Yeah, so I pretty much eat the same thing every time before sailing, and whether or not we're launching at 10 a.m. or leaving the house at 7, I have a cup of oatmeal, 6 eggs, and a smoothie. And I usually take the smoothie to go. So I don't know if you guys know, but Finn sailors tend to eat a lot. And so I kind of have 3 meals in one. So yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be eating.
I was muted. Just side note, how many times do you grocery shop during a regatta?
Well, I mean, it depends how organized I am and what the food options out are. I think during a regatta, I definitely do one large shop, and then in Japan, like Stu and Dave said, you know, convenience stores are great. So I might pick up some chicken skewers on the way home or something like that. So, I mean, I've gone every day at some regattas, but yeah, we're having 5-6 meals a day. So one stop isn't that much.
Gosh. Pedro, what about you? What's your pre-Olympic meal going to be?
I'm not sure, but just like Luke, I like having a big fruit smoothie and some cereal and just a big coffee before racing. So that would probably be it.
Awesome. And I think last but not least, Paige.
So I used to have a tradition with my bro. It was actually post-event meal. Him and I, after loading the boats, we would sneak off to McDonald's. So I want to do a post meal with Coach Steve, and if my family's around, we're gonna sneak off to McDonald's and we're gonna sit there after being exhausted, hopefully with a medal, passing it around, just eating like all the junk food we can and laughing about how everything's going.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you guys so much for your time. I'm going to hand it back over to Justine, and just a shout out to everyone who followed today. A reminder, if you want to follow these amazing athletes and their journeys to Tokyo, remember their handles are below in the description. So thank you again, and I'll give it back to you, Justine.
Yeah, thanks, Bree. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you all the athletes. I mean, you truly are an amazing group of individuals. So super excited to have you joining us, and everyone's out there following you. So we'll be rooting for you from our homes, and thanks to everyone who joined us this evening, and thanks to our U.S. Sailing members and donors and supporters. It's with you behind us that we're able to build a community of active and engaged sailors, and are able to better serve all of you with content like this. For anyone who's interested and who tuned in today and would like to help represent Team USA with a Helly Hansen hat, you can use code HHVIP20 to join or renew your US Sailing membership, and you will receive this hat as a gift. Yeah, Stu has his. You can also use the link in the chat to step that up. And but yeah, thank you to all the athletes for joining us, and it was a great evening. And go Team USA! We're all here behind you.
Thank you, everybody.